let's see here. Oh, okay. So this is more of kind of a motivational question. I would love to ask about how to keep the continued motivation up when the world tries to get in the way of your progress. Uh, yeah, if you're talking about me specifically, that's something that I didn't used to be a problem, but has become more of a problem. And I guess I don't mind. I've shared, I know, with students and classes. I mean, I had COVID in about a year. Was it a year ago? A year and a half ago. Year and a half ago. And so I had COVID in August of 2022 when we first moved up here, and we were still living in the RV, waiting to close on this property, and we were at about 8,500 feet or so, and it was the sickest I've ever been. And I'd had all the vaccinations and boosters because my wife Suchel was entering nursing school at the time, and she had to have all of them, and I just kind of, in solidarity, I got them along with her. I didn't really care one way or the other, to be honest. And so, anyway, I got really, really sick. I mean, respiratory. The first night I had it, I didn't know for sure I was going to be able. I couldn't breathe, and especially at altitude, and my SpO2 was like, in the mid 80s. It was really bad. So the next morning, Sucha went down and got a whole bunch of herbs because we didn't really have much. I had some tinctures, but I didn't really have any herbs or any RV. And so there's an herb store in Taos, and so she brought them back, and I did some steam inhalation, and I got, like, within hours, I started to improve just incredibly. But my point to this is I got really bad long COVID that I think is neuroinflammation from that. And for the first time in my life, I've never had a problem with being motivated. I've never had a problem with any of that. And I really had a problem for a while. I'd have some really bad days of what I would call depression. And for me, it was an eye opener. And I was like, oh, well, now I can empathize. I've worked with people with depression, but I never really could empathize with it. Now I can. I understand now. And maybe that was a good reason for it. What actually turned the corner for me really well, so I have a NeuroRegen formula that works really well. That helps a lot. That I started using, especially as a nausea oil. The oil, into the nose, and then it gets into the bloodstream that way. And so a lot of these, what I call NeuroRegen herbs, many of them come to us from TCM, but have been researched really well because of the fact that they do certain things in traditional Chinese medicine that have been found to repair myelin sheath damage. So myelin sheath around neurons and decrease inflammation around in the myelin sheath. And so I started working with that, and that helped a lot. But what really turned the corner for me was an herb called Sananga that I used, which I had used before. Oops, Sanga. There we go, Sananga. I had used it before, about 10 years before, but more from out of curiosity because it's used in the jungles of Peru for tribes that will use it, indigenous tribes that will use it for increasing their night vision for night hunting. And my God, it's incredible how much it does increase the night vision. My first experience was at night in a little in a hot springs, private hot springs down in Arizona where I was teaching at WFR. And just like from the moment that it stings really bad, but when I was finally able to open my eyes, the bats that you could see at the far end, about 150 meters away, from seeing like 5 or 6 bats when they'd go up against the horizon to seeing like 200 bats, there, and it was just incredible. So I was already impressed with it then, but then it popped up again in a conversation. I thought, I would like to try that again. And I was a little curious, I wasn't curious about it for long COVID. I was just curious about its use for, more on a spiritual level for vision, for inner vision. So it's spelled up above cat. It's Sananga, Sananga. A place called Four Visions is, I think, a reputable place and isn't just I think Four Visions Apothecary or something like that. And they have a nonprofit that gives directly to the tribes that harvest this, and they harvest it with like a tannic acid, which causes a really deep sting for the eye drops. So this got me thinking about, number one, intraocular administration of herbs, because as soon as I opened my eyes up from this dosage, and I accidentally got the extra strength, I didn't mean to, and it was like getting kicked in the liver. I was like in a fetal position for a while outside, and I linked up with the plant. Like I could see myself, and Lucy was like about 13 weeks. This was almost a year ago. I had just gotten her, and she was sitting there, and I could see myself through her eyes, and I could hear the plant in my head saying, well, hello again, because we had, this is a very powerful plant. And it was just like somebody took a curtain and parted it from all of this really weird, brain fog, fatigue, and depression and stuff, and my motivation. And so everything went up. So this is a long-winded answer about my own kind of battle with that. I would say it's maybe a big word, but it's a little bit of a battle with the whole depression thing and the long COVID, being the only time in my life I haven't been motivated. So that was me. But the question may have been totally generic as to just how does one do this? Well, learning herbs and working with herbs is a very non-linear process. And so what I suggest is you follow your heart, you follow your intuition, and you work your way through subjects that are of interest to you, and you let the plants guide you in that, because they'll tell you. The plants will speak to you if you listen, if you're open to it and you're listening to them. And if you want to be a good herbalist, you have to do that. And this isn't woo. This is our relationship, our physical relationship with the planet as a human species. Plant medicine is living medicine. It's not dead medicine. It's not pharmaceutical medicine. It's not molecular compounds that have been developed somewhere in a lab. It is living medicine and breathing medicine. And so you have to be in tune with that too. And to do that, you just do it. The more you do it, the better you'll get at doing that. And that, I think, is a very, it's probably the biggest thing that I could think of that I would say is helpful motivation wise.